Hello, everyone. Hope you and your families are all safe and well. We've reached the end of this unusual holiday, and I'm certain many of, not most of you, are experiencing the maybe also unusual feeling that you would much rather be returning to school on Monday and that you've had enough time at home now. Thanks very much. You might have had enough Netflix. You might be ready for a bit of a break from family, dare I say, and they might all be feeling the same way. I think it's safe to say you're not alone feeling that way, and that when the news came out in the last couple of days that we were to have at least 3 more weeks of lockdown, all of us, despite the fact that we were kind of expecting it, all of us, the whole country, was dealt a blow by that thought. Now, that might have been a blow that you could shrug off, the kind of keep calm and carry on response. Then there's the way of dealing with the blow that's like poking a bear through a cage with a stick and it all becomes angry and lashes out. There's that sort of response, the sort of stress response. And then there's the response of those who get knocked down and then have to get up again. And all 3 responses I'm sure are things that you have experienced and will experience over the last few weeks and in the next few weeks. And people respond to things in different ways at different times, and of course not everyone has the same things to deal with. Some people have got more space at home during this lockdown than other people, and other people's jobs and incomes are more secure than others during this time, and life anyway deals little blows all the time. We know that growing resilience to these things is how we accommodate the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. But on top of that, we've now got this fresh test to our resilience, at least 3 more weeks when you might be feeling that you've had enough already. So in the best YouTube tradition, this assembly is all about 5 tips for dealing with 3 or more weeks of lockdown. So here's number 1. I'm going to call this one twice daily for others. So this one is about recognizing that you're not alone in this and that other people might be struggling in ways that you don't know about, and then doing something about it. And then it's also about the benefits to you knowing that you're doing something about it. So you might have thought to yourself over the last couple of weeks, how do these NHS workers keep going in the face of all that awfulness that they're exposed to every day? I imagine a lot of it is the strength drawn from knowing that you're doing a great thing for somebody else. So here's the tip. 2 things every day for someone else. I say 2, but it's 2 minimum, at least 2. So one of these must benefit someone in your home. Okay, at least one needs to help somebody outside the home. If you've been doing this already, brilliant, but it's not too late to start, and start you must. So in the home, is it going to be, don't worry mum or dad, I'll sort out supper tonight, or I'm going to make sure the living room starts off tidy every day, or I'm going to clean those windows, or mum, if there was one thing I could do every day that would be really helpful for you, what would it be? Now you might be surprised, other people are dealing with this blow too. Outside the home, helping others takes a bit more imagination. So you can do the note through the door, offering help, take someone's dog for a walk, go to the shops for them, make the offer. So one way that you might do something for people is this. If you've got younger members of your family that you're not able to visit, you can do bedtime stories by Zoom. Okay, so imagine this. Your uncle and your aunt and 2 little cousins live in some faraway, wonderful place like India or Somalia or Luton, and they've got a computer or a smartphone, and those young nieces and nephews or cousins have got a bedtime. You schedule a Zoom bedtime story. You read them a bedtime story, either something you've got at home on the shelf from when you were little, or something that you've got online, or something you've remembered. Whatever, everybody's a winner. Your cousins will think this is the best thing ever. Your uncle and aunt, they get to have 30 minutes break at the kids' bedtime, which you don't know might be a bit of a stressful period for them at the moment. And you get to have done something for others. That's just an idea. So number 2, it's pretty straightforward. Number 2, it's about that daily outside exercise, and it's about getting outside. Forget Joe Wicks, forget the video, do that as well, but you have to get outside. maybe you've got no bike, or when you go running your knee hurts. Doesn't matter, you walk. The government is saying up to an hour. Now if you can get out for an hour, do it. If an hour is tricky, then half an hour, but every day without fail you have to get outside. Ideally, for the sake of fitness, you have to get out of breath, and yet you can get out of breath walking. Try walking briskly for an hour. It's exhausting. You'll get fit. As well as what exercise you do, just as important is when you do it, and this will depend on your own rhythms and the rhythms of others in your house. You need to schedule in your exercise at a time it works for you, and maybe for others to have you outside for an hour. Maybe you can do your exercise and collect the groceries on the way back, and that would be 2 of these 5 tips in one. That's a bonus. So number 3, the third idea about how best we might deal with 3 or more weeks of this is that as well as taking some positive action to look after your physical health, is to be proactive about looking after our mental health too. So tip number 3 is about how you might do that. So one idea is that you keep a watchful eye out for things that make you feel anxious. Now, anxiety is really common at the best of times for young and old, particularly young people. And if you were already dealing with those natural feelings of anxiety, you might find your resilience is wearing a bit thin at the moment. So the tip is to be super aware of what your anxiety triggers are, which I think starts with your being able to recognise when you're anxious. You know, what happens when you're anxious? Does your breathing start getting shallower? Do you start getting snappy with people for no reason? Are your thoughts spiraling out of control? So the next time you catch yourself starting to feel that way, see if you can rewind a little and identify the trigger. Maybe the trigger was a set of thoughts or a pattern of thoughts. Maybe it was something outside of yourself, like an argument. Maybe it was a social media trigger. Maybe it was the news. Whatever it was, that was your trigger. So tip number 3 is about avoiding the triggers you can avoid. A straightforward one for some of my friends is that they've stopped watching TV news. They want to keep up with events, of course, but the TV news, the way the TV news is delivered at the moment for them, is making them anxious. It just is. So they choose to instead check one news app once each day. And for some people it helps to check it once at the same time each day. Just once. Don't keep checking it, just once. And then that trigger is removed. If your trigger is, too much going on, too much, then recognise that as being the time to get out and do your exercise, perhaps. Think about how you're going to get some quiet. If the place that you're living is very noisy, if there's lots of people sharing a small space, how are you going to get your quiet? Where's it going to come from? Are you going to get it by taking a break from the phone or headphones? Is it going to be some practice of some mindfulness technique or some meditation? There's loads of videos to teach you how you can do this online. So getting that noisy mind quiet is a kind of peace that is essential and needs to be protected and practiced. So that was number 3, recognizing and avoiding anxiety triggers and getting some quiet for your head. Number 4. So lessons are about to begin again on Monday. So my tip number 4 might be taken care of by that fact, because number 4 is to learn something new every day. Every day you can say, today I learned that. I'm not talking about learning something new about so-and-so from your social media feed. I mean learning something new by heart every day. So my English literature class was set the challenge to learn some of their A-level poems by heart before all this lockdown started, and I hope they're continuing to practice learning them. Because learning something beautiful or powerful or inspiring every day is like a kind of food that you can then draw on whenever you need a little lift. Lots has been written about this and about the power of learning things by heart. The ancient Greeks knew it to such an extent that when a newfangled system of writing came along, some people, for example Plato, feared this new development because they were anxious that it was going to enfeeble the muscles of memory, because for them it was the ability to remember things that was where the true power was. But even more than that, there are countless stories of people in terrible circumstances, imprisoned, trapped, isolated, kidnapped, to whom recalling something they'd learned by heart was a tremendous comfort and strength. It could be a poem or part of a great speech or an inspiring quote. Learn it, and each day you pull it back out of your memory to refresh it until you know it by heart. And some of the things you learn over the next few weeks might stick with you forever, and not just your schoolwork learning, but also something that you've chosen just for you and that you've learned by heart. Right, last but not least, number 5. This is also a simple one. This is about reaching out to each other as an antidote to isolation. And I know most of you are already using Zoom or other video meeting platforms to hang out with your friends. But it's also about reaching out to those friends that you've not heard from for a while and asking after them and letting them know that you're thinking about them. Because you never know how powerful that might be for somebody to know that you were thinking of them. And that's an easy one to do, and it can make a huge difference for people. Now, your tutors are going to restart their phone calls next week. And I'd like you to be ready to answer 3 questions, because they're going to ask you 3 questions. The first question they're going to ask you is, how's your learning going? How are you staying on top of things? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Is everything working? Give us the feedback on your learning. How's that going? Secondly, what's your exercise routine? Simple. What's your exercise routine? What have you been doing? What's it like? And 3, what's your mental well-being tip? What's working for you? Because then they can share those ideas and inspiration with other people from your tutor group and people that they teach. They can share your idea with them, and in that way you can help others in that way. So be ready for that, please, those 3 questions. Alright, so there are 5 ideas on how we might meet the challenge of the next few weeks. Of course, you've already got the challenge of your schoolwork to factor in and keep on top of, without letting that become something that makes you anxious, of course. And if you're finding it hard to motivate yourself to learning for subjects, for example, in which there won't be a summer exam, ask yourself this: since when is your learning just about an exam grade? Your education has always been bigger than that. It's about how that learning shapes you. Yeah, sure, in the discipline of learning it shapes you, but also in the stuff that you put in your head, the way that it makes you think, the things it makes you challenge, the way it makes you reflect, and the connections you can then make between things, your ability to imagine, feel empathy for other people. It's all sorts of human qualities that to be without is a serious kind of poverty. Your education is about developing yourself. It's about the quality of your life as much as it is about the quantities of grades, and I think it's worth remembering that at the moment. So on that note, good luck with your learning next week. Practice the 5 tips, and we hope to see you all soon. Till then, all the best.